Hello world! Welcome to Decode or Not to Code. I'm Mele Eva, and as always, I'm happy to be here today. And I'm here with Stefan. How's it going, Stefan?
Well, still super hot, but we have
It
super
is,
hot
isn't it?
content ahead of us.
We sure do. If you're new to this show, we're two friends who meet every other week and work on our .NET tool live here on stream. Everything's built live with you guys. And our tool has features working with using directives and experimental interceptors, but we've actually currently been working on a new feature, which is looking at nullable adoption or how you can adopt nullable reference types to your project. But before we get into all that, please also have a look at our GitHub page where you can see all of our social media handles and give us a follow if you'd like to reach out with questions or advice for us or feedback in general if you just want to reach out, or if you want to obviously stay in touch to see when we're going to be live again. So our upcoming streams and our upcoming content. Right. And also if you're a regular, if you've been here before with us, you will know that we like to create issues, GitHub issues whenever we come across like things that we could potentially improve in our tool. And yeah, we tend to leave the stream with more issues than we started with. But today, today we'll tackle some of those issues. And the goal is, I guess, to have less issues in 2 hours than we have right now. Is that a fair goal for you, Stefan? What do you think?
This would be a first in
it
1.5 years. No, for almost 2 years since this we're doing. But yeah, that's a first for everything, isn't it?
Yeah, you have to dream big. Reach for the stars. All right, let's have a look at some of them.
Yeah, we want to, well, a lot of these titles include either MSBuild or the .NET SDK or NuGet, central package management. If you go to the documentation, that's something with NuGet. Also use well-known MSBuild files. They have special names and they could help us a lot. We want to make our project, our solution project setup less verbose, more powerful, and with that, our code more powerful. And MSBuild. I think the only thing we use with MSBuild so far was this in our, well, when we started in our first, second or third to code or not to code, when we had David helping us getting started with all the Roslyn things. How do we load a project or a solution in an MSBuild workspace so that we can extract documents and compilations and do all of our stuff with? Well, it's all backed by this MSBuild workspace. And MSBuild is doing a lot, so much, and I think I want to know 0.5% of it.
Okay, I know 0.0% of it, I guess.
Okay, I
so
guess we need some help, right?
We do. We absolutely do.
Let's see.
But who could help us?
Well, let's do a good old overflow, Stack Overflow search. Let's go to MSBuild. Let's see. I am not a robot indeed. Oof. Cool. I just learned there is now the wiki, and here are the top answerers for tags of questions or questions tagged with MSBuild. Wouldn't it be cool if we had the number one on our show?
That'd be so cool.
Speaking
and
out.
Surprise, we indeed have Martin Ullrich here with us today.
Hi.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining and humoring our little intro here.
Very, very sneaky.
Yeah, I've been way too deep in it, so I thought I could start answering some questions, and that kind of blew up a little bit.
How did it start? I see also general.NET and .NET Core as well.
Yeah, actually, it started right around .NET Core. So I was following .NET Core from basically the beginning, and then they announced the switch from Project JSON to MSBuild, and then I realized I have no idea now how these project files work. So I started a little digging, tried to make myself familiar with how all of that worked, and especially on how they made things a little bit simpler than it used to be before. Because if you've been developing in .NET for let's say, a long time, you had these like project files that were huge, like miles long, not really human readable, although it was using kind of English words most of the time, but it was just not human readable or manageable. So whenever there was some merge conflicts in these files, you would like have a drink and try to resolve all these issues. But it's now become a lot easier. And so I was following along that process. I was trying to help all my colleagues and apparently also people on the internet to transition from Project JSON to the new MSBuild files. Or also when we transition projects from basically the old classic .NET world to .NET Core, or now to .NET 5, 6, and so on. A lot of that work is also just restructuring your project files. And so that's how I kind of got into MSBuild.
Cool. I was
Awesome.
trying to find, we actually have somewhere an integration test for the classic style. How do you say the non-SDK style? So the new ones I think are called SDK style. How do we refer to
SDK
it?
style, yeah. Let's call
The
them
old
classic.
ones? Classic.
Let's call them ugly.
Ugly. Ooh, we should rename our specs to say ugly. But I think with using directive somewhere we have the ugly set. Don't we? Oh wait, we can. So there's something with project
Yeah.
classic. Somewhere must be something that does. Can I find this? Create project text, create non-SDK. That sounds promising. Oh yeah, there it is. So something like that, right?
Yeah, something like that. Although that fits within like 100 lines, so kind of manageable.
And
too ugly.
well, not too ugly. Yeah, you see all the references that are there all the time, and we needed to add each and every document that we have in our project manually. And if you take a look at the SDK style, yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Lot less code. Because it turns out most of the things will actually kind of be the same for most projects that you have. So why repeat that over all the projects?
Good question.
So there is a lot of where do the defaults come from? If we take a look at, let's take a look at our main Axie project of our .NET tool itself. So we have so this is like our, we have some NuGet properties that we use for creating the NuGet package. And also, well, we refer to libraries and we also include references. But yeah, we don't mention any source file in here. Where is this coming from?
That's the really cool magic. Because in the old or classic project files, you would always see these import statements that are pointing to some internal files within basically Visual Studio. And now there's this magic string in line 1 that says, hey, I'm a project and I'm actually using an SDK. So SDK tells MSBuild, please go look for whatever this package is. In most cases, it's on disk. You can also reference NuGet packages via this one. Ooh. So you can also ship SDKs as NuGet packages, with the caveat that during loading you might crash Visual Studio. But
why is that?
Unless you do, because it has to download the package during the solution load.
Okay, cool.
Or the project load, I think, more specifically. But the idea is this SDK actually secretly adds import statements to the very beginning and the very top of your project. So that at the beginning of a project, it will import some default logic. And also at the end of your project, it will import some default logic. And in the middle, you have the chance to customize whatever the defaults do.
I see. And is this? I can imagine this is a lot. So these lines that we have here, they kind of get lost.
You can actually have a look at what your project file actually looks like. So if you open a terminal in that folder,
let's go to that folder. That will be in tools. Wait a minute. What did I do? Oh, sorry. Tools. Oops. Yes.
Yeah. So if you do .NET space MSBuild.
MSBuild. I only used MSBuild so far.
Yeah.
Well, I
and
used
then-
just 10 minutes ago. I used .NET MSBuild --help. It's the first time I typed this on this computer.
yeah, because most of the other .NET commands are just wrappers around this MSBuild command. So if you execute build, it will just call .NET MSBuild with some special arguments that give it some defaults. For example, if you say build with clean or something like rebuild, I'm not sure about the flags card, it will call just the clean and build target and so on. But now if you do my MSBuild minus PP, so 2 P's for pre-process, it will actually just load the project, process all the SDKs and imports, and render the complete output. You might want to redirect this to a file.
I have absolutely no idea how to do this.
In PowerShell.
Yeah.
Maybe greater than, I think that still works. Project.xml, maybe. Yeah, and then it should show up in your directory.
Project.xml.
Nice.
So if you really want to know how your project file looks, and you get also some of these comments are actually in the SDK target. Some of these comments tell you where this stuff comes from. So it tells you it comes from NuGet.props, it comes from SDK.props, and so on. And that is all the default logic. .NET.SDK. Yeah, for example, it secretly imports SDK.props into the beginning of your project.
So I could now take a look at this file.
You could
and see...
take a look in all the MSBuild files in the SDK, but you can also see, there it is.
And there is more imports and more.
There are more imports and so on. Some of them are conditional.
Oh yes, conditions.
So this is like an if statement in MSBuild.
Oh wow.
But you can get all the pre-processed output. So the project file is still kind of long. So I guess you're looking at maybe 2,000, 3,000.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Or 4,000. Yeah. So it's still long.
Yeah.
But most of that is just hidden from you. Like if you want, you can tap into all of these. You will see a lot of things that start with like an underscore. Those mean like, please don't mess with it. Yeah. So if you see properties or items with underscores, like maybe don't change them. If you see targets with underscores, maybe don't try calling them. If you see something with double underscores, it's like even Microsoft internally to tell each other, please also don't rely on that one for use outside of that specific file.
Oh, okay. So is an underscore more or less internal and an underscore
It's kind
private?
of exactly.
Okay, cool.
That's a good comparison, actually.
Yeah.
But also that really shows what the difference is between MSBuild and other build systems, because you see a lot of logic is actually also implemented within the MSBuild language. So yes, there is an MSBuild tool. There are some tasks that are implemented in .NET, some DLLs, but a lot of the actual glue logic is within MSBuild. So in like descriptive languages, like if you have a POM XML or other, for example, Project JSON, you can, everything that is outside of the logic of the configuration structure that you have, you're screwed, basically. If I want to have some logic that like hooks somewhere in between the build process and modifies a few things, you can actually do that with MSBuild. It might be ugly, it might not be maintainable, but it's possible.
So super easy to, well, not super easy, but super, I can extend anything. Do I get that right? Or a lot of things.
In MSBuild, you can really extend a lot of things. I recommend trying not to, or trying to look for other ways around. But if you have to work around some weird issue, like before Rosalind had more switches to control, like enabling and disabling analyzers, you could hook before the compile step and remove some of the analyzer DLLs. If you know that you have a project where one analyzer will cause a significant performance issue, you can move all these files to a separate project, hook into the compile step, remove the analyzer DLLs that were added by the SDK that you could not selectively reorder.
Oh, wow. Okay. There's a lot.
Also, those issues are.
Now I'm wondering. So in the old SDK, I think that's for me like the most convenient thing, because when I worked in WPF or in .NET in Classic, no, in ugly .NET WPF, when we added a new file, then we always had to add the document as well, and this was always causing merge conflicts. So where is this now? Can we find this here?
Actually, yes, you can. Maybe search for enable default compile items.
Enable default.
So you see there is it. Enable default compile items. Yes, for example, that
so
is the
condition. Yeah.
That is the line that includes all your in your case C# files. It says compile. It's an item group. Conditioned. So basically, there's an if statement that says if you have the property enable default items set to true.
Yeah.
Then include everywhere in the project, so it's a recursive search. Include, and then default language source extensions. It is .cs. That's also set by the .NET SDK. So that could be FS or .vb or like whatever language you're using in the project. If you switch to a Visual Basic project like .vbproj, it will say, hey, if the project file ends with .vbproj, the default language source extensions would be .vb.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
And
then there are some excludes. So there's some things that should be excluded, like the bin folder, object folder, if you have like some other hidden folders. I think for C# files, there aren't that many excludes. I think for web projects, there are some more. And especially if there's other SDKs depending on that. Then, for example, I think the web SDK also adds a www root folder to these excludes. So there's more. This logic is kind of additive in some places, but this is the line that includes all your C# files.
Cool. So now another SDK. So the default SDK has like some default, maybe not necessarily, but let's say the default. Like some excludes, but then the web SDK, which is referring to the project SDK, is now may extend this. That's a item group.
That is actually a property. So a property.
Okay.
So you can define and redefine this property and add more to it, and just add more semicolons to separate all the stuff.
Yes.
So now, it's technically just a string, because MSBuild has two. It has two main kind of things that it deals with. One is properties. That's just key value string pairs. A property can only have one value, and the other ones are items. Those are basically collections of things, lists, where you can include more items or objects to these collections. And those can also have metadata, which, for example, what version is right here. So there's the package reference collection of objects that you can include stuff into. You can remove stuff out of it. You can update existing things in it. You can have duplicates in it. Sometimes this will be problematic, sometimes not. Which any build logic should look out for. So like duplicates in C# files, will be sorted out by Roslyn. Duplicates in NuGet packages, not so good. Duplicates in things you want to copy to the output directory, very bad. But you will get a warning for that. But for example, and other stuff in there would be then metadata. So on these objects, you can add more string key value pairs. And in this case, one pair would be version. And those are just strings you can add any custom metadata that you want, and it will end up there.
And then NuGet understands, or searches for these and knows how to interpret the version here for these included for this.
Technically, you can also. Technically, there is item groups, and technically there is also a thing called an item definition. So there is also item definition groups. Where you can tell MSBuild, hey, these are items you should expect. And you can also set defaults for some metadata. So if you want to change all your package reference to have maybe a no warn on them or some weird property, you could do that in there as well. But I recommend not touching these in general, unless you have a specific reason. But the reason I'm telling you about it is we've seen these like items and properties and conditions all the times, and the order is kind of weird because you currently do not have conditions in your item groups. But for example, if you have a project that targets multiple target frameworks, so on the item group you could, for example, also add a condition that says.
Let's go to a project, because that's our build project,
Yeah.
our nuke project. Let's actually go to our core library logic that we multi-target for 6, 7, and 8. So I could now set a condition here
and say maybe if the target framework singular.
Guess the dollar syntax, right?
Yeah. Also, I recommend putting single quotes around it to indicate it's a string comparison.
Can I do like spaces to indicate so?
Yeah, you can. Equals. And then, for example, net 6.0.
String, I guess.
Yeah.
6.0.
Then you could specify, for example, things that should only happen for .NET 6, .NET 7, and so on. In this case, target framework might be a bit special because it is only set in a sub-build because you have target frameworks and so on. But for example, I see you have a lang version defined. So you have some shared version and you might want to like switch on lang version or on nullable on values of these. You could also see that you can actually move this item groups, item definition groups before the property groups, and it will still work.
So not for, so if I would do, let's say, lang version is 12.
Is 12.
And we could move this property group down to the end here. Property group. It's not auto-completed property. Formatting. Oops. So, and it would still work, although
that would still work.
We use it, but we have it here.
Exactly. That will still work because MSBuild actually parses all your project files multiple times. So it does multiple passes over all the projects, all your content, and interprets everything step by step. So it will first parse all the properties and imports to basically end up with this large structure that I showed you before, and knows all the properties that are set in the project. On the second pass, it will read item definition groups. And then on another pass, it will read the items.
Then the items, okay.
Yeah, meaning that even if you have conditions that reference properties, even if it's the first thing in the project, in the SDK, an item group, it will still see all the properties even defined very late in the process or in the string content that's actually resolved. So that is a little bit confusing at times, but it makes things a little bit easier. So, for example, what you can see is we had a look at these default items, like the compile items, because
it's open like here.
I think you still have it, yeah. Or no?
Well, that's the SDK prop now. So
it's the first project XML, yeah. So, for example, there's this default content item. Oh, no, we just had the cursor there.
So, excuse me, default content item.
So, for example, if you set enable default compile items.
These?
Yeah. For example, if you set it to false in your project, you would disable this logic. And then you would have to do all these compile include that you had in these old projects. But if you set it to true and you leave it to true, these item groups is still technically before the content of your main body of your project, because it comes from the beginning of the SDK and not the end of the SDK. So your project is in the middle, and you can either set the properties that affect this item group that is technically before your main CSproj file. And afterwards, you can interact with the items. So you did not set this property to false in your project.
No.
So you can have item groups and say compile remove, for example, or compile update.
Because this item group is before my item groups that come, if it flash over somewhere, that's afterwards. Sure, I don't find them now.
Or we also talked about
afterwards.
Exactly.
I
That's
see.
somewhere line 1400, and that is a little bit early.
Yeah, and also, even though like our custom, our CSproj within this big XML is after the default compile item is used.
Exactly.
Because it's property.
But for example,
first I could disable them.
Yeah, but you could also, for example, set exclude items or default exclude. So, for example, if you have like a client app folder and a node project within your project, which some web projects used to have, you could, for example, no, that's in a property group now. Sorry, it's in property group. Sorry, you can say false, and then you.
I just want to give this a brief try. So this should now basically not. This should, if we build this should fail because we don't have any C# sources or something.
Likely, yeah.
No main method. Yes.
No main method.
Nice.
Yeah, that's so cool. And we can also remove from items. And I guess via the items group, right?
Yes, item group.
Item group.
Yeah. It's because it didn't used to be. It wasn't made for humans, so it was not called properties and items, which it should be called. But there was, I think there is a serialization format behind them, and one was an item group object and a property group object, because before .NET collections, like before generic collections in .NET, there was an item group object and a property group object that apparently they just serialized into, or I don't know.
Okay, and in here, tool, there we are. And then here I could now compile, remove. Does this need to be a full path, or can I say, is this relative?
Well,
can I now say program.cs?
Exactly.
And it would, although we enable all the default items, we remove them, but this comes afterwards, right?
It comes afterwards. So it would be there before, so you will be able to remove it. So you should end up with the same error.
Same problem, yeah.
Yeah.
No, wait, I don't. Why is this actually? I thought that in the big. Let's do again a, what was that? .NET MSBuild -p2 project. Isn't the.
So you will not find the resolved items in there?
But isn't this? Oh no, it is before, and then other. Oh yes, no, my bad. Okay, yes, my bad. Okay, yes, we added first all of them that had the CS extension, but then since our code comes after,
you removed one. Yeah.
Where is it? Then somewhere here we say now remove. There we go, and it's gone. Yeah, I see. Okay, cool.
Yeah, 1,000 lines later.
1,000 lines later.
But what this is really used for example, you see there's also an default item excludes or default exclude in project folder.
Default item exclude, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it removes output path, intermediate output path, artifacts path, bin object, whatever. But for example, if you have like other code in there, for example, a node project, if you have a web project that has like a www root folder or some client app folder that has a node project in there and a node modules folder, you might want to add the node modules folder to this list.
They will be
or well, it would be difficult to compile, but also if there is suddenly a CS file in your node modules folder, it would be included. Also, you're causing MSBuild to scan how many files are in the node modules folder?
The whole internet, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't wanna search through all the files in the node modules folder. You just want to keep that out of MSBuild in most. I recommend keeping the node project separate from the .NET projects anyway. But yeah, it used to be the way the templates were set up.
I see.
Like 5, 6, 7 years ago for SPA applications.
And I have a web SDK that builds on the default SDK, and I may have a NuGet package that adds something else, and then I have a huge build, and just everything works, and I have
there
no
have
idea
been
what's really going on.
there have been GitHub issues where people were complaining, "Hey, my web project works, but it takes a long time to compile," and people were figuring out, "Oh, yeah, we need to specify the exclude more aggressively." So that MSBuild doesn't even traverse into the node modules folder.
Yes, I see. Oh, wow. Okay.
Because it takes a couple seconds to analyze all the files, enumerate all the files in node modules.
And then
those are the things you could work around in your project file.
Yes, but I have to do it everywhere and all over again.
But also, I really recommend if you find these things and you say, okay, there's default item excludes, it doesn't have an underscore, you can mess with it.
I can add, remove from it.
It's a property, you can redefine it. In this case, this is actually a property redefinement. So it says it's in a property group. It says the property default item excludes is the string content of default items excludes with something else behind it. So it redefines the string by using the string and adding more to it.
So this is how I add to it. Would this mean now, if I would be super funny, if I would like to build up this string, I could say, first I do .NET, wait a minute. And 8, first I do .NET 8, and then I say the next target framework is use the variable target framework and add semicolon .NET 7.
Yeah.
And then use target frameworks again, which is now .NET and 8 and 7, and add 6 to it.
Exactly. That would still be semantically the same thing as you had before. If you want to be fancy, then on the last definition you can, or if on the other ones you could technically say add a condition and say enable legacy frameworks. And say, okay, these only take effects when I build the solution with some special string.
Like if I would also like to build for good old .NET for 8, for example.
Yeah.
For 8.1, is that the latest? I totally forgot. Condition equals to if string comparison $my fancy exclusion.
Or let's call it build for classic net or something.
Net.
Yeah, equals true.
Then we would also.
Then you would also build for 461. And then, for example, if you call .NET build now, like I think this should still. Does it still work?
Wait, if I type it correctly, .NET build. Well, I guess we need to get rid of some exclusions.
Yeah, I think you can need to.
Let's do. So if I would include it, I would have it twice, but I can imagine.
I don't know how Roslyn behaves for that. Yes.
Oh yeah, duplicate. Yes.
Duplicate.
I commented out, so that's XML. Cool. And let's build that.
Yeah,
and then exceeds, but we only build 6, 7, and 8. Yes.
Exactly. So if you add to your command .NET build space -p colon, and then what did we call it?
I just passed the name. This is how I set properties.
Yeah, build for classic net. You just created a new property.
Equals to true.
And set it to true. Yeah.
Oof.
And this is how you can build fancy CI/CD logic.
Dramatic pause.
So it will cause a new restore. So it will cause a new restore graph. And it probably warn that it says, hey, some projects are not compatible with .NET Framework. But you
Yes.
technically now built
Yes.
with
Oh,
a different
yeah.
target.
Cool. Now, what if? Well, actually, two questions. First of all, no. Second of all, I do the second first. Use artifacts output. We talked about this
Yeah,
earlier.
exactly.
We talked about artifacts output. It's actually, this is not planned at all. We just got there. But also, I would now need to do this. Well, maybe not this, but our custom build for .NET framework for 8.1. Only if we enable this build. But I need to do this for every project. So because this tool project is depending on our core logic and the CLI, and which in return is depending on the core logic. And also, I want the unit test and also to target it to test it.
And
So
also, you want to have the output in one folder, right? Of everything.
That would be
the
also
bins.
amazing. That would be really cool because currently we have these bins in every project. We have 5 or 6 projects, so we have them all over the place. Yeah.
So what you can do is, and I'm not sure if your project already has this. So within some of these import statements in the default, there is an import statement that looks for specific files, like files with a magic name. And some of these magic names is directory.build.props and directory.build.targets.
This is underscore. Don't mess with it.
Yeah, don't mess with that.
Props. Cool.
But there are some variables around it. You can see there's import directory build props. You can set to true and false, and directory build props location path, and so. But
I could disable this logic.
You can disable this logic. It's enabled by default, and it's in a property group. So it has to be set by default. So you can set it as a global property, like from the command line, at the start. So you could mess with that as well.
Oh wow! Oh, this is
so a lot of the logic. So the thing is, if the team changes anything in MSBuild, anything in the build logic, this affects like just an incredible amount of projects worldwide, like millions of people actually working with the tool, and a lot of money being dependent on things working. So for most new logic that they implement, they also implement escape hooks. That if someone finds a bug with it, they have a way to disable that feature again.
I see. Yeah.
So for example, if some project had a directory build props file, which is not likely, but possible.
Before that was introduced.
Yeah. There is a way to escape out of that new logic.
I see.
Which most people will hopefully never have to do, but for most new stuff, you will find escape hooks. Yeah.
Cool. So, okay, where should we create this? Is this where do you like usually create this at the root of the repository, or
I usually put it next to where I start my code or have solution files?
With a solution, yeah.
I'm not sure if you have a solution.
Yes, we do. So let's navigate here. In SRC, we have our solution.
Perfect. Then I would put it next to the solution file.
Oops. No, don't edit. Oh, sorry. I also have a déjà vu
file.
Because previously we did a lot with .NET New and List, and I have a déjà vu in there. MSBuild.
There is one. Build props. There is one.
So
I didn't know about it until now.
So we could
.NET New build props.
Build props. No. Oh, I always.
It happens to me as well. The same time. All the time.
Was created.
Perfect.
And cool.
There it is.
Let's open it. Let's just search for it. There we go. Cool. There's documentation. Amazing. That's good.
There's a link.
And there's my property group. And this will always be loaded. Well, I guess this is very high up. So this is coming then before.
That is a very, very specific logic. There's also some things that are actually before some other parts of the SDK. So you can even affect, for example, some of the default compile items. It's even before that.
Ooh.
So like if you really go deep into it, there's some weird effects of that. But
so where do we have that?
you
Now
can
let's move.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we have that? In tool, right?
Tool, yeah.
Tool.cs. Oops. CS Purge. There it is. Yes. Build for classic. And now, if I still have the other terminal open, if I would just rerun.
So this is actually now.
Oh.
Oops.
Oh, we have some NuGet packages
Yeah,
that don't build.
I mean, it's still building for net for 8.1.
Oh.
There is a little bit of a caveat now because I don't know how you define your first line of the tool of these like target framework stuff.
The first line, excuse me.
In the project
target
CSproj file.
Oh, this comes first. Yes.
Yeah, because now this is so the first one should actually remove this again. So yeah, whenever you do redefines, just expect, like if you have a property that collects things, maybe expect other people to also want to make some customizations before.
I see. So we need to, okay. So overriding is really, well, I may override something else that came earlier, yeah. And it's not a problem that we depend on a pack.
And if you set it to false again, like explicitly set it to false, it should build.
Yeah. So it does. Okay. So, but we see that it does apply.
Yeah.
Cool. So we could now start moving duplications.
So we could now, exactly. We can do it. We can use it for useful things, not stuff that breaks the build.
These we have everywhere. Nullable enable and implicit usings enable. They are part also of the latest templates. We have them everywhere, and we could now go ahead and kill all of these. Oh no, that's the project. Yes, all of these. This is now source code for our integration tests, and cool.
Not this one, but yeah.
But we now only have
now set for everything in the project,
and everything that is in this hierarchy of.
In this hierarchy, exactly.
Everything below.
Well, technically, all the project files that will find this directory build props file when they go up the hierarchy and look for the first one that is up the folder hierarchy. And it will only be one. So if you have multiple directory build props file, you also and you have one, for example, we just created one in the source folder. If you wanted to have one on the solution, like on the main root folder, and you want to import that again, you would have to add an import statement to also point to the other ones, because it's not like a list, it will only be one, and it will stop at one.
No, actually, do use the documentation, because I think I can imagine it's mentioned there. It's not.
No.
I think it's custom built by folder.
Built by folder. Oh, this was reworked.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
There's really good documentation now on these topics, which is really good.
Okay. Yeah, we see. Oops, zooming in.
So
we see the cascade and if I have so if I have multiples like so, now this project would only find this one, but it would stop. It would not go up anymore.
Exactly.
And
to make this work, they tell you to just copy this one into the first item of your project XML structure. So you copy this magic line, and then you would not inside the property group, like really at the top.
That's not.
It would tell it, search for one above. Yeah.
Oh.
By the way, this is also how you call methods.
Yes. So we have. Is this like an static MSBuild type or a static MSBuild
that's
class?
That's a magic. Exactly. That's a magic class. There's also some whitelisted .NET methods you can call. So you can, for example, system.string and call copy or starts with or something like that.
So
But yeah, there's some ways to also call into more
could do
intelligent logic.
So I could do MSBuild. No, if MSBuild string dot starts with. No, is this how it works? Is this static? No, this needs to be a string.
I mean, also it needs to be like in a dollar and bracket syntax.
Ah, yes.
And then you will have starts with, and you can call,
Can I paste this in now?
Yeah, you can.
And say if it starts with T for true.
Yeah.
And if this evaluates to true.
I think so, yeah. You can try it.
We can try it. So if we get the build to fail with T, then it works. Unexpected token T. Okay.
Okay, yeah. Because you see there's the build for ClassicNet, put some single quotes around that as well.
Build for And we build for ClassicNet was founded.
Okay. Okay, yeah. There's another weird effect of calling. Wait. You called MSBuild. You want to call system.string.
Oh, that's my bad.
System.string.
System. Also no. So I'd say MSBuild.
No, system.string.
No, just do I need the brackets?
Brackets system.string. Actually, I can do it. Yeah.
Yes, please.
If I find your
system.string.
Yeah,
like
and
this,
then
right?
just the method. Yeah, and then just the method name after the double colons. So we can do this.
Okay. Did I save? I believe I did. Expected token was found in calculation 35. So let's yank. Ooh, debugging MSBuild. Cool. No, not debugging. Debugging our MSBuild logic. There we go.
Yeah.
Oops.
Build for classic. Yeah. We might need to call string copy as well. There's some weird side effects. So actually, if I look at the... Or is it starts with or begins with in .NET? I always forget it.
Well, it's just a string. Well, I guess I'm using this wrong, right? Because starts with... There is no method starts with, is there? Because it's a static method.
It's not the static method, yeah.
If this is a string,
but you can
actually on it?
Actually, there's also magic property functions available. So you can also call build for ClassicNet that I think starts with or begins with. There's some built-in functions on everything, and there's like you can, for example, you can call system.GUID new GUID with this method. You can
like system.start
inside the brackets.
Inside the... Oh, I always forget that. No, don't. Oh, that's part of... No, I don't get it. What am I fixing? Like getting rid of this? And then I need one here. Oops. Like so. And it fails. Yes, that's good because that works. And if we were to not start with P, but start with A, it passes, but we now have some invalid import.
Yeah, some invalid values because there are some redefinitions, I think.
Oh, yeah, I messed up. I guess we messed up something somewhere.
We messed up some. But
cool. I'm checking the version history now where we messed up something. Don't do this, yeah. Cool, maybe, yeah. That's really cool. So keep it. That's really... I now also saw there is more, isn't there? There is also a target. And actually now, I kind of expected another one, but I think we are currently on .NET 8 here in the .NET 9 preview. I just did this like an hour ago because checking if there is something new in .NET 9. There is also so there's actually 3 of these magics. Directory build props, directory build targets, directory packages props. What is now the directory build targets?
So as I mentioned, things get magically imported before and after your main body of project. The difference between the .props and the .targets file is just where it ends up in your project.
So the props come before and the targets come afterwards?
Exactly. It's just before and after.
But it doesn't mean that I can only put properties in there and only put
It
targets in there.
It used to be more like here's where I should put configuration, and the other ones here you should put logic. That's how it was built in the SDK itself. But that was 15 years ago. It's just the ones above and the ones below. It could be called before and .after.
Before and after, right. I also see the link that you posted. I'll put it in. Also, excuse me, I was not monitoring the chat at all. Advocacy, a little late, but thank you very much for joining.
Thanks so much for joining. Welcome back.
Eric is asking, do you have a legal bottle to drink from?
Even better, I've got a little mug, and this is cold brew tea. So, very fancy today. But I did think of you the other day. I was with my mum, and I had one of those legal bottles, and she just ripped the cap off, and I was like, call the police, call the fire brigade.
The legal bottles.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of property functions. Okay, so we can. So I can. Does it mean I can invoke any code of the .NET BCL?
Unfortunately, no. There's just a few things that are whitelisted.
Okay.
Which is nice, but also you can define. It used to be it's a security issue. We should make sure that you don't do too much shit, basically.
There was a list.
But then you can still execute any command line code with the user's permission with just an execute task. The only difference is the code is actually run within the build environment. So maybe within Visual Studio. So they were a little bit more defensive about which things you can call, because it actually happens during evaluation. So not as part of a build. So for example, you could have remote MSBuild workers that execute the actual build. But if you do parsing, when you use MSBuild workspace, if you want to access project content, this basically runs during parsing because it executes somewhere in the properties and whatever. Because tasks, which would maybe call some shell scripts, call even inline tasks that you write with Crossling Code Task Factory, whatever. That would run during build, but these things run during basically evaluation. So they wanted to reduce the surface area of what damage you can do. For example, in daytime offset was added later in the MSBuild. You can see that. They decided to whitelist a couple more things.
Now you mentioned the Rosling Code Task Factory. Now I'm intrigued by the Rosling part. I have no idea what it is.
So MSBuild, you can do a lot with MSBuild, but in the actual things that execute logic, which is targets, target is basically a function. You can call functions, but they only run once. So if you call the function again, it is already completed. Also, there are ways to determine if incremental builds need to run a target or not, based on inputs and outputs. If inputs are newer than outputs, whatever. So, and in targets, you put tasks. And these tasks can be one of the built-in tasks that MSBuild gives you. It can be loaded from DLLs that come, for example, from Roslyn.
So we have
target, exactly. Target, and one task is copy. Like
this is
copy strings from source to output. That's a task. It runs within a target. The target names are actually also what are the main build entry points. So the main target you will run when calling .NET Build is build.
Ooh, so I could...
If you call .NET Clean, it will call the target clean.
Ah. Can I invoke my own target?
Yes, you can invoke your own target. You can invoke sub-targets. You can create new targets.
Would this be then .NET Build target something?
Yeah, or -t.
-t. Oh, my target.
Exactly. But if you call .NET Build, and .NET Build always calls the build target. So you can use .NET MSBuild, for example, which has no default logic attached whatsoever. And this will just evaluate the project and call my target, whatever that is. Currently, there's still this because we have an import statement in the direct group build props that's not as intelligent as it could be. Like it works, but maybe let's remove that one.
And now it says, okay, my target does not exist.
Exist in the project, exactly.
Could we do some hello world target here?
You can define it in the directory build props, then it will end up in every project, yeah.
So
or in the targets file that you created. If you want to be super.
Yeah, because they are at the end then. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't need them early, we need them. The target may want to use something that is defined earlier.
Well, the target will be executed after evaluation, so it will see all the properties and items after the. So that's the thing. Everything that's outside of targets is called like a static content, and everything once it starts targets, we're in the build phase and no longer doing evaluation.
Cool. And I guess this is now where you need help me. You know how to do like a hello world?
Yeah, there's a message task.
There is a message task.
So you can do message. And
oops.
I think it's text equals.
Text. Hello. Oops.
Yeah. And then there's also an importance.
Importance.
And maybe set that to high.
What does this do?
So basically, MSBuild also has a concept of log levels.
And
there's some defaults where the CLI calls MSBuild. Okay, where did we say it?
Does not exist. Did I add this maybe wrong in the hierarchy?
Yeah, it's only the generator source.
Oh yeah. Where is this? Is a totally different project. I have no idea how I got there. This is not good. Because it was yeah, that's mine. Go away. It found. Why did it find something on my disk, not on this in this project that I am? Directory.build.targets. I was going to this one. Yeah, okay, that's the one. Ooh, okay.
It even has
the template has one. Yeah. So if we now, I wanted to say hello.
Like add your target
world. Oh yeah, do I still have that? Woohoo! And then we can leave that from formally and okay, I messed up.
Yeah.
Never mind.
do you have the Windows V copy paste thing?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Never mind. But let's run this. And because it's called my target. Yes. Let's call this thing my
it's
target.
Called my target.
Hello from my target. There we go.
Yeah.
And let's run my target. And now it's found and says hello world from my target because we have 5 projects and it's included in every project.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool.
If you want to be fancy, you can add hello from my target in.
Oof.
And then MSBuild project name. Like
actually not Is this like
Actually,
a name?
let me find your cursor. And I think that if you go to the console again, and if I remembered that correctly,
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
there are some magic names. So if you have a project, it's called something.something proj. The first, like the thing without the file extension, will become MSBuild project name. There's MSBuild project name, MSBuild project extensions, MSBuild project path, and so on. You can have a look at the documentation.
There is
But you can also see there's like after targets. It says execute this target after another target. Like there's before targets, after targets, and depends on targets. So, for example, if you call depends on if you change after targets. So if you call .NET Build now, let's do that first.
Yes. .NET Build, but
Yeah.
do I need to do my target? No, it's not included.
No, remove that. Just call .NET Build without any
build. Yeah. Yes, and we invoke with .NET Build the build target.
If you just call .NET Build,
hello.
You would still get this.
I see it already. Yeah.
Wow.
But if you wanna maybe say, oh, you want to execute my target directly, but the project should be built first, you can also say depends on targets equals build.
Depends.
No, leave that.
No.
Actually, let me.
So not after target. Yeah.
So, and if you call the previous invocation again with .NET MSBuild, my target. Yeah, this one. It will still build the project and then call your thing. So, and this is, for example, how .NET Test works. There's a test target that depends on the project being built. Unless there is some condition set, so the depends on targets could also be referencing a property that could be set depending on other properties.
I'm having an epiphany now because there is no build. There is a no build and a no. No and build. And build has a no restore, and this is how
I have to admit, though, restore is a bit special. Because restore actually relies on... So if you call restore and build in one invocation, it might fail. Because a .NET restore might, or in most cases will, put some magic properties and targets in the object folder that should be included in the project. But the project has already been evaluated, so you can no longer affect evaluation.
Okay.
So the way this works is you do one pass, load the project, call restore, throw it away, load the project again, and then call the other target. Luckily, MSBuild has this built in, and you just add -r to the .NET MSBuild invocation.
-r, is it like recursive or?
Restore. It's a short for restore. MSBuild restore. You can call MSBuild restore, .NET MSBuild --restore, or just -r.
Well, so now a totally different folder.
Yeah, exactly.
MSBuild.
Yeah.
-- restore.
Exactly. And then it will call the restore, and then it will call the default target. So you can also call restore and then the target, my target. But for example, restore and target build would be the default behavior of .NET Build.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, this is cool. Oh, wow, now everything makes sense. This was always magic. Speaking of .NET Build, now this creates, during compilation, there's an OBJ folders created and the bins. We mentioned the artifacts output earlier. Now I wanna use that. Do we still have the project and find for artifacts? Because that seems to be disabled by default.
Exactly. Use
like also the nullable and all of that stuff. Use artifacts output. So we just set this to true.
Exactly.
Now directory build props would be, I guess, a good space. Oops. True. Because now it somewhere is a, can we basically find that if that is side effect output. Oh no, this is actually setting it.
Yeah, this will do and say if the artifact's path is not set.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things that try to be intelligent in here. I think one of them is also it tries to find, do you have a directory builds props file? And if so, it will try to use the folder where you put your directory build props file. So lots of things that try to be a little bit intelligent. Also, there's this, what you highlighted now, using Microsoft Artifacts SDK, an escape hatch for the entire logic. If you have something like that in your own build definition already, there's an escape hatch for the SDK logic.
Oh, that's so. And if I try to get the value of a property that has not been defined or declared,
you can compare it to the empty string.
And it will be empty. It would be the same. Well, it would be the same as if I were to have it empty, right?
Exactly. You can also set it to empty.
And
this is actually also the only way to unset the property.
This is how we unset. We set it to empty. And so because we can only remove from item groups, but not remove a property.
Exactly. It's just a string. It's a key value thingy.
And if that is true, then the directory build props base path is set. Ooh.
Yeah, there is some logic that tries to be a little bit smart in there. That tries to, like, there are some things that try to find, do you have this setup? Then it tries to be smart about your setup. Because looking for a solution, like, the thing is, a solution path only exists if you build a solution.
Yes.
But if you go into a project and type .NET build for just that project, it needs to be a little bit more smarter.
I see, and I guess
but
it's
the way you could, So it says
go ahead.
Yeah, so it's you could set an artifacts path yourself with like the artifacts path property, but you can also try the default behavior now.
So this is now, well, actually what we saw, it was just, that's just how it is. Yeah. Because of that, it would use the location of the directory build.props. So we will have the same directory, we have the solution.
And which now there's an artifacts folder.
Solution is here, now is an artifacts folder with our bins and debugs. Cool. But we actually already have an artifacts folder where we, as an output for our Scratch debug, for our integration tests, where we emit projects and C# files and then let our integration tests run against these. So now we can define our own, basically we override now this artifacts path that is defined, well, we just had it here. So I guess we use artifacts path. Oh, this is
exactly. Cool. And this is how I learned most of the stuff. When people ask questions, how do I do this? It's like, let me look at the logic that's in the SDK and try to make sense of these. And if it doesn't start with an underscore, it's kind of safe to touch.
Oh,
like
this
I
one.
have to admit, this one. Maybe not touch it. And now we can use a magic.
Sorry, I was typing.
So maybe let's use I have a different keyword layers. Magic property. The keyboard layout is still. Oh, now I have the right layout. MSBuild this file directory. Magic property that for whatever context you use it in, it will be this file, which is directory build props directory. So it looks like a property that has to do with the project. No, it's magic. It starts with MSBuild.
Yeah.
So it will be this folder, and it will already include a backslash, so we can do the folder above.
Oh, that's really cool. Because if I would have just went with dot slash.
Yeah.
But if you point, this would be here. This would be then in the project we have imported. We have merged this. Yoy. This is cool. .NET build.
And maybe not, because we should maybe also put
Uh-oh.
artifacts in here.
Yes, we now.
Sorry.
We can
So you
always
now
keep-
made
well,
a
there is
bin and
no-
object. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is how it works. Yes, because we. Yeah. Mhm. And now in our artifacts, there is no. That was. Oops. Oh, we also we need a trailing slash.
There is a trailing slash needed. Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah. Okay. And now, oh yes, now we have the bin and
Yay.
OBJs in here. Oh, that's really cool. Now we only need to if. So now basically everything when we do build and test, no, maybe not test artifacts, but this is a different concern. But when we build, everything is in here. So we only need to kill this directory, and it's like as we just checked out the new.
Exactly. You don't need to recursively search for bin and object folders, hope that are actually the ones that are created by C# solutions.
This is amazing. I love it.
There's also a nice thing you can set. So, for example, if you expand like now the bin object, the bin folder and the object folder, there's like the projects, and then there's like the configuration and the target framework, so debug _net and so on. And I think there's a property you can also modify this layout. It's called artifacts pivot. Maybe if you go to the project XML. Again.
Oh yes, I was briefly tempted to check the documentation. No, we checked.
No, we have the logic.
This is amazing.
So
pivot.
Yeah, configuration low invalued, and if the target frameworks, for example, so target frameworks are set and not set, so it will be different. Yeah.
Here we have the configuration, so debug. We do it to lower, and then we append if we have target frameworks. So if we only have one target framework, we won't. But
it will just be debug. Exactly. So if you want to be consistent for all projects, you can also set this. However, yeah, the configuration should be passed in.
So I guess
could copy that line.
Is this not? This is still before, so we could actually.
This is before. So you need to set the first one as well. So you would have to copy.
I see.
Both parts, so the configuration to lower invariant.
We'll finish it later. Underscore. Oops. Let's close that.
Target framework to lower invariant, exactly.
Underscore hello.
Yeah. Let's maybe check first. You said you had some projects. Also, you need to close the tag, correct? Let me do that.
Oh, yeah.
So if you check the folder structure, you said you had projects that were only targeting in the artifacts output that are only targeting like a single.
Oh yes,
framework?
our build project. That where is it? It's not here. Oh, it's not here.
Because we only built a subset of the projects right now, I guess.
That surprised me because our solution should include also our build project, for sure, the tool.build. And this is net 8 only.
Okay, so it wasn't built because we built from some subdirectory before.
I may have, yes. Tool. Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's the other.
Or no?
Is it this one?
I'm not sure.
That's the tool. No, that's again. Well, let's go back. CD. So here is our solution. And what do we have now in our no, not source, but in our artifacts folder, we now have.
And now I would not be surprised if there was. Yeah, you have the hello folder.
I'm not sure why the build project is not included.
Is it in the output of the .NET build actually?
Question. Can we search here? .build. No.
Is it in the solution?
I'm fairly certain. If we go to the solution. Yes, there it is. Ooh.
Is it
do
is
we
it in the
do-
build configuration?
Is it?
Like-
I don't think we messed with that, so should be. Oh, that's the IDs, right?
Yeah.
Well, we talked about in a previous episode about the solution.xml that may be coming in the future.
Yep.
Or that is already in the Visual Studio preview in some form.
The but not in MSBuild. Or could we use it from the command line as well? But it's not. I think it's not supported in the MSBuild.
I think it's not yet
workspace
supported
so-
in from MSBuild, yeah. So
Yeah.
and this
no,
like I'm sorry.
So, oh yes, there it is. Mhm. And then debug end release. Ah, this is okay.
So it might be excluded as well. I don't know.
Well, we'll figure it out. Maybe because in here we do.
Oh, you have a directory build
I have
props
a
file in there.
Yes, and this stops
And
the
this
transitive
stops.
lookup.
Yeah.
Oh.
Why- here,
So
I
you
think
might
it's
want to remove that.
that's part of that came with the nuke template. Yeah. Just rename them. They should be practically gone, right? And now we would multi-target that as well. And now we would have in our artifacts path our build project as well.
Yeah, and if you, I guess you have to extend the.
Does it not?
It does, but your window is
Oh.
too small.
Nice.
In this case, also target framework is not set because target framework is set in your project. So you see there's a missing string because for a multi-targeting build, it first creates a build, the outer build, and then it will dispatch to inner builds. I think the target is actually called dispatch to inner builds. And so it will build the project and set project target framework from the beginning. But in here, it's not set. So what I would suggest is to take this definition of the artifacts path, or the artifact pivot, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And put that into the directory build targets.
In the directory build targets. Should we move all of them?
No.
Together
only,
or not only that one?
Only this one, yeah.
And we go to directory build targets and we do a property group. And close it. Oops, group. And run it again. And now if we go to our artifacts, bin build debug.
Debug. Ah.
That's just debug.
Yeah.
So, does this mean it's not? Is that overwritten now somewhere?
Yeah, it's over. No, actually, the pivot is already used, I guess.
It's too late.
Shit.
Okay.
Now it's too late to set it.
Well,
then I'm sorry.
But we see, okay, it's already consumed, so now we're setting something that is not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so all the intermediate output would have to be set again in the this would, if you really wanted that, it would need a little bit more logic. Basically, you would have to copy some of the SDK logic into the directory build targets file to reset the base intermediate out, like the output path, intermediate output path. You could all reset that based on the logic, so it would need 3 or 4 more lines, and it would be good, and it would only have to be in one file.
Because we have it. Yeah, that's the cool thing. We don't need to duplicate with this props and targets. Well, I guess we could have always had it previously, but we had to manually do this imports cascade, which again we need to do in every project. Yeah. Oh, this is really cool.
So maybe remove it again from that file.
Oh yes, but this is really cool that we now have all the outputs in just one directory, because sometimes we look for the generated global assemblies file. Not global, the global usings file, and now I have them all in one place. So they are also emitted via MSBuild, or via
No, I think
target that
those
is via
are,
MSBuild?
or are they? I'm not sure. You can search for global using in like global. You can copy global using
in the project
in the project
no.
XML.
Global using. Oh
no, space. Global space using. It's not. But implicit usings, you can see that implicit usage. What are they calling? They're using. So you can search for implicit usings. Maybe there will be more.
This is what we have in our project.
Yeah,
and
then there's the using collection. So you can search for at, because that's how items can be referenced as a collection. You can search for at opening bracket using. Okay, that's not found. Then search for percent using, or percent bracket using. Yeah, okay, that's also not found. Then I guess you would have to search for implicit usings and try to find it via the documentation.
Like if it says somewhere here. Well, also no, was it not
implicit?
Just see it. There it is. So we do have.
Yeah.
But what? So
I wanted to have a look for where these are used. Yeah,
these using
sometimes are a bit. Those are sometimes the places those are used are sometimes a bit difficult to find. Actually, let me.
Do not modify Microsoft.NET SDK C#.props.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess So this is one of the defaults that you get whenever C# project. But if a Visual Basic project or F# project, you get different. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that all falls together now.
Falls together like that. Opposite of falls apart. No?
Guess I'm using it wrong, right?
I don't know.
Can I find something? It's not net framework.
Let's see, how's that? Oh, I cannot look into your live show. I cannot look into your artifacts folder. Can you have a look at how that file is called?
The global. Oh yes.
Yeah.
The
global using.g.cs.
Something. Yes. So project is that project name? No, where was it? There it is. Project name .globalusings.g.cs. Yeah.
Okay, so it might actually not be within your your preprocessed project. I don't know for which reason right now. But what you can do is, what I always like to do is open the actual Microsoft SDK folder. So in your program files.net folder, there should be.
Yes. I'm navigating to program files.net.
SDKs, yeah, and then maybe open the .NET 8 SDK folder in VS Code and also share that. Yeah, maybe open that also in VS Code or something.
Can we? Oh yes, we can. Code not. Do I trust? No.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe increase the size a bit.
That's yep.
Yeah, and then do a global search. So Command-Shift search and
using
search for global using. Exactly. And yeah, that takes a long time. Maybe only search for .g and not CS. Or global usings.g.
So because
.g. Yeah. And there we are.
Yoy.
Because it's probably G and default language source extension.
Yes, of course it is.
Because and that is the generated global usings file, and you can search for where this is used. And
white lines.
And there is a write lines to files. There's the underscore global using lines. So and then there is a line before that. There is a task called generate global usings.
And those are the usings.
Yeah.
Yo, so this is the add. So we are the add. Okay, I'm switching to the other.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tasks with tasks you can pass collections, so it will see all the metadata as well. Technically, there's a way to do like 4 loops on parts of collections. For some reason, I think this did not end up in here.
Oh, this is really cool. So for every, so this is this basically now a for each?
No, this is calling the task once and passing the entire collection as it is.
And the collections. And so does this mean now all of these usings are collected and then output to this item name? No, I'm not sure.
So there is some tasks, generate global usings. You can actually search for generate global usings.
Target name.
Yeah, there's a target name that is the same name as the task, but I'm pretty sure if you search for that, there's a using task as well. So there's also something that can be improved. And apparently that comes from an assembly file, Microsoft Net build task assembly. So apparently there is some code that was implemented in a .NET assembly.
Okay. Cool.
That knows how to generate the global using statement for each line. And then there is a file that collects all these and writes it to a file.
And then we write these lines. We overwrite them if they exist already, but only when different. Oh, this is amazing.
And the only when different part is actually important because it will keep the timestamp of the file. And if the timestamp of the file is not modified, it will not be considered up to. It will be considered up to date for incremental builds as well. So the logic will still run. So if you change the usings in the project through some way, for example, if you pass a different property in or some weird other configurations, it would be considered for incremental build. But also, if you did not add this, you would never have the opportunity to do an incremental build. So there's some weird stuff. And then you can see there's an item group that says compile include.
Compile include generate. And so this file is also yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
I never understood how this worked. This is really cool. It's just code. Well, just under air quotes.
Yeah. Part of the logic is part of the language that's used to configure the project. It's sometimes complicated and weird to understand, hard to follow, and sometimes it's really useful because you can extend. And for example, if you scroll up a little bit, a little bit less, sorry. There is a target, and it says before targets, there's some things it always needs to run before. Some targets it always wants to run after, so it kind of positions itself.
Ooh.
And there's also a condition that says, hey, skip all that if there are none.
If we don't
condition.
Okay. So yes, so this is how we then can still maintain or have an order, although they are in totally different files brought all together into one big XML that is then
with all these compile tasks. I have to be honest, if you like add code or remove code, there are some shortcuts that a lot of logic does. For example, if you run like MSBuild workspace like it will not actually call a build, but it will call the targets, I think, like prepare for build. Or something like that, or before compile, it so that all the generated code is available as well.
Yes.
But you don't actually want to call the compile step.
Yes, only when I get the compilation, I guess, then it's
Exactly.
really compiled.
Exactly.
But I still, before I compile, I may want to have the syntax tree available. And this is actually what we do, I think, because in our
before you compile, you want to know all the C# files that are involved in the project. And even if they're generated, you want to have the generated ones, so you can actually have the content. And I think if you use MSBuild Workspace to create to have your compilation object, or to start just inspecting things, it will call some of these targets that it knows about to make sure it has all the MSBuild knowledge that it needs. But you don't actually call the compile and build target, because that would just execute tasks behind the scene to generate the output, to generate the DLL and so on. You don't really want it. So it will only like call the specific things.
So if I were to build my own open API from open API to C# file generator,
then have a look
to similar rules to that.
Exactly. Have a look at some similar logic that's already in the SDK.
Yeah.
And maybe copy that.
Oh, this is really okay. Whew, that's really cool. About the artifacts, Eric for now always used, or until the artifacts path, used the base output path.
Base output path is kind of the similar thing.
But then you also need the intermediate, don't you? Something like that?
No, base output path also has, I think there's also a base intermediate output path you can use. So you can set base output path, base intermediate output path. And there's, I think you have to set this in directory build props, because it has to be earlier than some of the things that come between the directory build props and the beginning of a project. So there's some weird bugs that can happen with that. So there was so base output path, I think that was the first iteration of what people wanted from projects, actually to have this artifacts folder. And so they were like, hey, here's this base path thing. And then it was like, yeah, that's nice, but I cannot include things in there that are part of the project, like we just saw, like configuration might not be set yet, target framework might not be known yet. So it lacked a little bit of these things, like having the pivot there, having some defaults in determining the location. So I think I remember there was a long GitHub issue about how this people expected it to behave and then ran into some pitfalls. Like for example, you can use MSBuild project name to use the name of the project, but if you want to have something else in there that is set in the project, then yeah, maybe.
Like in our Hello World, do we still have the Hello World message text? So, we used it. This MSBuild project name, and served him well for many years to clean everything without destroying anything.
So, for example, there's like issues like MSBuild setting base output path and directory build props break solutions. So, you need to set, for example, if you set it to this file directory, then maybe also include the MSBuild project name as well. So you can use this, but if you then want to, whatever.
So on those multi-targeting, I need to implement all of that again, and Oh, wow. Okay, this is really cool. Now,
and also if it's like within your project, the output path and the base. So you were always able to set output path, but then or intermediate path. But then if you want to like also have NuGet in some special cases, respect that or do the generation differently. They introduce base output path. Yeah, so there's weird edge cases. Artifacts is kind of the one that serves I want to have everything in one folder from a git ignore and from a CI and for not to confuse other tools. Like maybe exclude all the C# files in there from some code style checks, because there are some code style checks that are just looking at CS files and executing some logic in there, and they don't know that if a file starts with auto-generated to ignore it.
Yeah.
So if you generate files, always start with this auto-generated tag. Because a lot of tools respect that.
Yeah, this is something that also we had in our tool. Ignore the auto-generated. I guess not sure if I find it immediately, but also if the document ends with .g.cs or .generated.cs and all of that, there is many ways to find. Yeah. Oh wow! So when
you are not the first to run into this issue, and there have been people developing tools that so you can, if you have use some third-party library that also does generation, but they forgot to do that. And I don't blame them for that, because it's not really well documented or well known with to the general broader public. So having that all in one folder now is better than before.
Now you mentioned also the output of NuGet, and so we have a third magic file now, or not magic, well-known file, the directory.packages.prop. So we can also do some cool things and some consolidation with NuGet. I'll just create that file and see where we go. I guess also in where we have the other. Do we still have a terminal open where we are in the solution? I believe that one. Yes, .NET New packages props. This doesn't work because .NET -- version, this is still 8 in here. Yeah, we need to go 9.
I mean, you can do it in a different folder and copy the file.
That's not .NET CD, .NET New packages props.
Nope, I think if you have the global JSON in the folder.
Oh yes, of course. I need to. Yes, I was thinking. Yeah, it's folder dependent, not terminal. Yeah, what was I thinking? I'll just create any .NET New packages. Oops. New packages props somewhere. There it is, and we'll paste that in. Can actually, if I should want to paste, yes, I am. Cool. So this is now a .NET 9 preview SDK created packages.props. Okay. Ooh, there's documentation. I guess, do you need the documentation? I guess you don't.
I mean, I also just opened it on the side to make sure that I don't talk complete nonsense. But yeah, the feature is called Central Package Management. It's also one of the first things that I saw people do when using a lot of these MSBuild style projects. It's like, hey, I can put all my dependencies and versions into one file, which you could always do. It's like with MSBuild, you can do your own thing. You can have your own items and then have some logic in your directory build targets that then could create all the package references. The problem with NuGet is mostly tooling, because whenever you open Visual Studio and say update packages in solution, what it would do is then it would in your project file add some package reference, update, whatever, and not modify it in the central place. So if you put it like in the directory build props, for example, like if there is you put an item package reference something in there, and you opened Visual Studio and you would update a package, then it would not touch the one in the directory build props, but to your project file it would add an item group, package reference, update equals Newtons of JSON version and the new version. So you would have the new version, but then again it would end up in a project file, not centrally. So it might touch all of the projects in the solution. So they wanted to find a version that both the tooling understands. So if you use tooling and you change things, you might end up with weird results. So the tooling tries to be a lot smart. But for example, for the target frameworks definition that we tried before, where we had like these 3 lines, if you would then try to use Visual Studio tooling to like mess with these, like maybe don't.
Yeah.
So the more fancy you try to be, the more dangerous tooling actually gets.
Because it doesn't
Like,
know my
I'm already
custom crazy thing. Yeah.
exactly. I'm already happy that the first thing they try to do in Visual Studio is to make sure that if you have a property group without any condition, that it would try to change the things in there. Because normally property groups had like condition, configuration and output thing. Because like if you open Visual Studio properties of a project, there was always this drop down and the box at the top that says which configuration do you want to edit and which target architecture you want to edit. So if you have your old,
do we still have?
I think you still have the old one.
Where do we have that?
You can search for classic. Yeah.
We're not sure where we have. We create non-SDK. Well, but no, ugly. We should rename this to ugly. Oops, excuse me. Oh, it was a create Visual Basics. There we go. And condition. Condition exists.
So there's this property group, the main property group, and if you scroll down, there are these property groups with condition, configuration, and platform. So they construct a string of both and compare it to other strings.
With a pipe in the middle. Yeah.
And would set it to these. And if you always only relied on the Visual Studio properties editor, sometimes it would do the right thing, sometimes not. So for example, if you want to say set optimize for everything, or like debug type, or something like define constants for everything, or warning label for everything, if one property is already in here, it would only change it for the currently active configuration. And then you would have to go through all of your configurations and never understand why things are weird in a project file, because you weren't ever used to opening your project file because of exactly that reason. It looks ugly and it's loud.
Yes, and always dreaded of merge conflicts.
So I'm really happy that in the last versions of Visual Studio they had this new version of the property editor that's now much, much smarter. So yeah, but again, NuGet ran into the same issues. They kind of like, they can parse MSBuild, and MSBuild can tell them where have properties been defined. It can even tell you if you run in debug mode, or if you like run a log, you can even see where it has been redefined and so on. But again, if you want to update it, if you want to write tools that update a project file, they kind of have to make assumptions about where things end up being set up, how people usually do it, and especially for NuGet, they need to write code. So if you follow the NuGet tooling exactly as they documented, it really shouldn't be too much of a problem. So for example, in the packages props that was generated, there is this property group, and this is a manage package version centrally true. I think that enables a couple of MSBuild logic that then tries to construct package references out of or add more package references depending on whatever you set with like central versions. But it also tells the tooling, hey, look for this new version of reference in packages without versions. And if you find a package reference and you want to update a version, use a different logic and try to find like a centrally defined version that applies to your project. Update it there. So I'm not sure you have any NuGet package to reference in every solution.
Well, we have. Do we have one that is everywhere? No, we don't have. No, maybe.
I mean, it doesn't have to be everywhere.
Solution. So that we have multiple.
Maybe.
For example, in tests. Excuse me.
Sorry, NuGet package in tests. We can have Fluent assertions.
I'm afraid I'm here on a branch where we don't have that yet. That's
no, because we had a really cool episode about that. That's what I was thinking about. No. Anything else?
but we do have this
Microsoft code analysis.
We do have this
XUnit.
quadruple
Yeah.
X unit. These that we have
Yeah.
them in both test projects. And
Nice.
also
So-
when we update one, we would like to update the other two.
Yeah. So you can, first of all, I'd suggest copying them to these other files. To the directory build packages.
Let's close. Do we still packages dot props?
So then we want to change the package reference to package version.
Package. Wait, there is a multi-caret edit. I always forget.
You can do Alt and click on all the things. Can you also?
There it is.
And then maybe remove the private assets because we don't need them. I don't think it has any effect because it's just
a test project. Okay.
Yeah. And now in the test project, you can remove the version equals.
We show error. Okay. Get some errors. We can remove the versions. Do we keep the private centrally? The private assets?
Yeah.
Just get rid of the version. And also in the other project.
The other one. Exactly.
I get some errors. Projects that use central package version should not define the version on. So we should now do this for all of the projects.
They want to do it for everyone, but it's kind of an error. It doesn't have to be an error.
Can we suppress that error?
They want. I think you can do no warn or no error.
Can we go in the?
Try it in the directory build.
Directory.build.props. If we say
no warn.
No warn?
I think so. And then extend it with no warn.
So that we don't override existing no warns.
Yeah. Although you're kind of before all the main logic, but we want to be a good citizen.
And say no warn to this one. And if I would now go to does it? Still says. Does it do a store? Let's go to a terminal. .NET restore.
Okay, it doesn't want to do.
Okay, it's really an error. We can't suppress. Okay, we can't. So we can only suppress warnings, but not errors. Okay.
I wasn't sure if it's a warning that is propagated to an error somewhere. Like those kind of also exist.
So I'm not sure if VS Code has like a facility to say, hey, move to. We can add a NuGet package. I'm not sure if there is like a hey, turn everything to centrally versioned. Should we go ahead? Could we together go through the projects and centrally versionify them? So directory.packages.props. We have nuke. Version. And we have, these are actually, they are included in, well, maybe we come to that later because I'm just referencing them to bump that version from Nuke because Nuke is using or that version of Nuke that we used an older version that, I made a mistake here, right? That version gets rid of, that had security issues. So we also, security vulnerabilities. So we only wanted to bump that version. I guess this is why we have them here.
I think there is a feature to do that as well without having to reference it in a central package versioning. We can try that later.
Ooh.
To tell if something transitively references that package, I want to update the version. But for example, if Nuke then removed the dependency on Azure Identity and you never used Azure Identity out of it, it would just be gone.
Oh, that sounds
I
cool.
think there's a feature with that as well.
Let's maybe Eva, could you help me a little bit with the projects from the bottom and move things over? Now, this may not be the most exciting task, but we only need to do this once. So we move them over and remove the version from the original. I guess this is also just a bumping one.
Wait 1 second.
And C# workspace.
Yeah, I think there isn't even a good tool or something that helps with that.
Haha. Maybe we could build one.
Ooh, yes. The central package management defier. Okay, we have content for 10 more episodes. Did I kill that version yet? No, that was a different one, right?
So,
More tests. Ooh, divplex. Visual Basic.
sorry,
Oh yeah, we need this for testing. And
I got lost. Oh no.
And some more versions. Oops. Project reference, and I think that's the last one.
Yep.
Oh, this looks duplicate, right? I guess, or at least partially. Well, we'll find the duplicates later. Version, and version. And I think in the tool itself, we don't have any package references, do we? No. Cool. Should be all. But we're still not happy because this should be version. This is also work across.
Ooh, nice.
So can we now, don't restore? No.
I think it still wants you to remove the
floating package versions. Oh, we are floating. Ooh, we somehow have a floating version. Yeah. Okay, they are not allowed.
Look at that packaging. Okay, interesting.
I don't know. Let's just use something 12, if that exists.
Actually, I should, once we get it running, I should show you another NuGet feature that I enable in all my projects. But let's do it first.
Unable to find with version greater than 12. Also, let's go to NuGet.org. And the suitable version of NuGet.
6.11.
6.11. Oh, that was
Just
off by.
One.
Cool. What else? System text, regular expressions. Projects that use central should not define the version on the. Oh, did I forget something? So there were some versions to remove. So actually, we could search for a version. Oops. This should only be
equals
in there is some more includes. Oh yeah, forgot one.
Yeah.
Forgot two. And ooh, cool.
Yay.
Okay.
Amazing. Okay, so we can
now it tells you there are duplicates in there now as well.
Oh yes. Let's fix the duplicates. Divplex.
Divplex.
Be gone.
No, not here. Not here.
Oh, that was the my bad.
In the directory packages props.
There we have divplex.
There it is.
Visual Basic. .NET Restore. Woohoo! Cool. So we now see in one go what versions we use, and we can upgrade them. Yeah,
Everywhere.
like 17.12. There we go. And that's amazing. No, this doesn't exist. Okay, I was naive. Maybe 11.
So what I also like to enable all the time, if you go back to your directory build props, I mean, we could set it in there, but let's do it in the build props.
Also, the build props, yes.
Because I also do that on projects where I don't use central package versioning, because it would just be like a migration work. So another thing I like to do is, let me find your cursor. What I like to do is to set restore packages with log file to true. And what this will do, if you do another restore and go through the folder hierarchy, maybe not the solution, yeah, this one, then next to each project file, you should see a log file.
Next to each project file, we now have a packages at log.json.
Exactly. So it tells you exactly what all the resolved dependencies are, and also what their hashes are. So if things changed, you would see whatever has changed, and the idea is that you define. So there's now different ways to restore, and one would be to restore in locked mode. So whenever you say in use CI, you should enable restore locked mode. So all my CI scripts, then if we go to, do you have a terminal open?
Yep. So do I need to share this explicitly?
I think I should have.
Maybe in the live share section, there is terminals, shared terminals.
It is actually shared terminals. I'm wondering why I don't. Oh, I was in the wrong one.
Oh, yeah.
I have to request read-write access.
Oh, here we go. Party time.
What was it? RM.
Yeah.
So .NET Restore, and what it can now do is say locked mode, and it would only ever use the versions in the log file. So, for example, if we changed a content hash somewhere from A to B, and say, oh, maybe this file has changed. Force. So it will say, oh, package content hash validation failed. So that's kind of a security feature. If someone tries to replace a package from under you, let's fix that.
Oh, this is really cool. Is this technically possible with when I only use NuGet.org, because we can't update or remove packages, but it could be possible with other feeds.
With other feeds, exactly. That can happen. And what I think the blog post still suggests to set a lock mode. But I really like to set that for CIs. So a good way to influence MSBuild is to set environment variables, because every environment variable will end up as a property. So even if I do a .NET build, so and change some version, you can still say restore lock mode true. And now there's an issue because we didn't restore and the version has been changed from under us.
Yes.
So if the project that the log file is not different from what it would expect when you do like a build now. So I can fix that by calling .NET restore force, or typically just .NET restore if you change something in the project file. I know. Fuck, the validation passed. Yeah, another way is to just delete the log file and restore again. So it will recreate the log file based on what's currently in there. And if you have like Git or something, you could now see a diff in there as well. So that's really kind cool. It's kind of that security people are kind of strong on having repeatable restores.
Yeah. Oh, I may now know my work tomorrow. It is really cool. Well, actually, I would have this view. I've never used package logs JSON. What I just realized, it also shows transitive dependencies. Can I view where, let's say I
actually use this a lot. If I have to find in there, I use this a lot to find out where some transitive dependency vulnerabilities actually come from.
Yes, or like I don't want to name the package, but some package did in a minor version a breaking change in changing from regular assemblies to strong named assemblies, and this is quite a core package. Other packages now use that too, and they kind of now have a torn ecosystem. And I wanted to find the perpetrators and took me a while. And this would be super easy with that. But okay, that's just a one side effect. Definitely start using this for the security aspects, of course. Not for the blame aspect.
Anyway, also I see there was a comment by Greg saying should you also set central package version override enabled? So technically there is a way you can set version override to true and false in the project in like when you actually reference a package and you say package reference, but you say, hey, this specific project needs a different version.
So we say
and there is a property that explicitly disables. So you can set diffplex version override equals something else.
So
and there is a way to disable these.
For SDK, is that version override?
Version override equals something else.
17 point. The older version, 9, something
like that. And there's a way to disable that as well.
So that it's truly
it's truly But in that project file, I could still mess with the package version item.
Not sure what you mean. Central package version
override
enabled to false. So this would now fail the build.
Yeah, but the closing tag needs to match.
Oh, yes. Fail to restore. The package specifies version override, but its ability to yes.
So if you want to be very strict about tools updating stuff, you can really say drive it home.
I didn't get the part that said I could still mess with it.
Yeah, I could still I could hook before the restore target and change the package version things from a target within the project. So like it's not a security feature; it's a convenience feature. If you want to disable that as well. Again, version override could come in handy especially if you consume build logic like test SDK, but there's other SDKs as well.
Oh, this is cool. And
again, there's like if you read the source code, you will find lots of configuration options.
Now we also had some packages that we just consumed as top-level packages, not because we need them, but to basically bump the version of a transitive dependency to a higher one that fixes a potential security vulnerability. Now, would I need to do version overrides for No, wait a minute.
Actually,
Could
let's try. Go to the project file where you have that.
Oh yeah. So we go
I think it was. You can search for Azure.identity. I think.
The Azure yes, Azure.identity. Oops.
In
everywhere. There it is.
And maybe
also system cryptography.
remove the reference, the package reference.
Okay.
Let's just do it for Azure Identity first. And yeah, let's save it and try to restore.
Do we get the warning now?
Let's see.
No, wait. I think there's a special thing to enable to do warnings, right? It's dash help. Find vulnerability things. Because this showed in an IDE that I was using and not in the
yeah. I mean, for some it shows actually up as a NuGet warning. You can try also to restore force. Like NuGet sometimes, yeah. Or was Nuke updated to have this new version of Azure?
Well, we haven't used the latest. There is a newer version, yes, but we are not using that yet. That's an 8-point-something version. That's in list. Oh, it doesn't. I think it's only listing. .NET list package. Well, we could do it like this. So that's the feature, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
That allows. That's also to include transitive and vulnerable. Dash vulnerable dash include transitive dependencies. And yes, okay, cool. Maybe the Azure thing wasn't directly
the only one, but the Azure one was the one that actually maybe .NET Build has this warning. I'm not sure where this warning is in. What happens when you do a .NET Build?
.NET Build?
Yeah.
Build. Oops.
No, just .NET Build.
.NET Build.
Also doesn't show the warning. Because I remember for Azure Identity, it was showing up as build warnings in projects where I have not ever configured these things.
But now we would need to...
Also, maybe since you did a new restore, maybe it also figured out that you need a newer version of Azure Identity. But you can check your log file and see what version of Azure Identity you're actually referencing.
So go to build.
But maybe not use the Solution Explorer, but Explorer at the top.
Oh, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we go to source and we go to build, and there is, where's the log file? I was hoping for a log file. I'm only building source. We're building everything. Please run restore.
Core tests. No. What was the project that you had this identity reference before?
In the tool build. So here in tool build.
Okay. Then go this tool. Did we disable the restore log file thingy?
That's in directory.packages.props, build.props, restore with log file. No.
Okay.
Now I'm confused why this doesn't restore. And does it not say build in here? Are we again having
issues with?
Not sure.
Let's go to the build directory, maybe.
ls.
It's cd, right?
Oh, my bad. Yes. Build. Restore.
Yeah, I think something is wrong with your solution file.
Yeah. There is no packages block JSON. Okay. The solution file. Okay. Yeah. And Azure Identity 1.
182. And what was the one that was specified in the directory build props?
In the
Directory build packages props.
Oh.
Directory packages props.
110.
Mm-hmm.
But we have excluded that now from the...
You have excluded that. And
Yes.
now there is a... So, and now there is a file... actually, I'm gonna go to your cursor. If you go to the directory... Yeah, so if we here do a new thing, central package transitive pinning enabled. So I think this should now update the version. So if you do the restore, maybe restore force again.
So it's now in the log file. Do we now? Oh, so well, that's the
No.
dependency. But do we also see what this restore? No.
Yeah.
Ooh.
There's identity and now requested 110.2.
And it's a central. It's not just a transitive. It's a central transitive.
Transitive, exactly.
Oh, this is really, really helpful. Where stuff is coming from. If I have a huge project, I would know what's going on. This is really amazing.
And yeah, Greg asks how I update the package log file. Like I just execute restore on the solution, and for me it usually works. Like I don't know, I think something is wrong with the solution setup here. And again, solutions are not human readable, so you might have to open it in Visual Studio and try to figure out if you have like a a solution build configuration issue, something like that. So
yeah, I guess we did something. Maybe we shouldn't have accessed all this underscore and underscores. Also with all the pre-hook things, so to circumvent the transitive lock, the central lock, to avoid the overrides with some custom logic, I guess. Yeah, this may show in a pull request. Oh wow, this is really, really wow. I learned about MSBuild and NuGet and all of that so much. Thank you so much. This was an amazing session.
Yeah, awesome.
You're
Thanks. Thank you so much for doing a deep dive and teaching us some new tricks. It's really cool. Cool stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Like, I think this was actually the a really good format to try to get into the details while looking at the actual code.
Yeah, absolutely.
No.
Yeah, and if you have any from the audience, any more questions, speak now, forever hold your peace. So I think we're sort of at the time. And if you want to learn more about MSBuild or just see more of Martin's content, head to YouTube because he's got a lot of really, really cool videos. So take your pick and browse there.
Yeah, some of them are for me. There's other great contents about MSBuild as well.
Also, I see something from the .NET Devs Austria.
That was the MSBuild event, though.
That's the MSBuild. Wow. Oh yes, MSBuild event is not equal to MSBuild.
The Microsoft Build conference,
Because actually, you'll be also on the live stage in in November in Vienna. Well, not about MSBuild, but talking about Aspire.
But Aspire, yeah.
Ooh, an inspiring evening. Cool. Yeah, Greg Stacks. Maybe we meet again. Did you forget anything to mention?
No, I guess it's time to. When are we going to be here next, or what are we going to do next, or what are the next steps for us or for the stream?
Oh yes, so we'll be back is that in 3 weeks? Yeah. On Tuesday, September the 17th, at the same time, we will continue with our tool, with our now enhanced, supercharged, buildable and restorable tool to facilitate the nullability story. And maybe then afterwards, we follow up with forwarding, because we also have a task open about forwarding MS-Build properties, what we did also today with the -p colon format. So we may forward with the same syntax properties that come to our tool to the MS-Build workspace, and it will be MS-Build-tastic.
It sure will be. Thanks again for everyone who spent the evening with us learning about MSBuild and NuGet. And thanks, Martin, again. You've been such a joy to have on the stream, and thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
We'll be back